live, we might not be.
30%.
This is the funnest part of the whole night.
Jordan's gonna sing a song until we get to 100%.
Once we're live, let us know.
Yeah.
Are you guys there? Okay, I think we're live. What's going on, everybody?
Yeah.
Welcome to Bocas Del Toro, Panama.
Very hot Bocas Del Toro, Panama.
Where all your wildest dreams will come true. Tonight.
It's going to get saucy tonight.
In the next hour.
Yeah.
What's up, guys?
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
All right. We've got Zach. We've got Marty Handley. We've got Humberto Sanchez. We've got Mike M. Sailing SV Someday. Darla and Steve. You guys are awesome. Brad Scott, of course.
Scott. What's up, bro?
Jason Harris. Let's see. Jack below too fast. Jack. Sorry. It's like reading, what's that game when you're playing on
Guitar Hero.
It's like Guitar Hero.
Just scroll up and then it'll stop moving.
We've got Zach. We've got SV Spirit Libre.
I'll go with Euphoria, seeing the world sailing vessel Ladybug.
Josh Davis.
Hey, Josh Davis. What's up, buddy? We got, of course, Dave, DV Zyre in the house. Thanks for joining us, Dave.
Dave, what time is it over there in Ireland?
Yeah. Minnie Cooper, Chris Evans, Anna, Stephen Delgado. We got Eric Sage, Michael Riley, Chuck Jones, Rhonda Baggett.
Baggett. That makes me hungry. Baggett.
I know. Okay. Save the Baggetts for later.
Yeah. Well,
more shout-outs.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. A couple announcements. We are going to have a giveaway tonight, so any donation of $5 or more will put you in a raffle to win any item from our merch store. So stick around for that.
Yep, very fun.
And then we thought we would just chat with you guys tonight. We didn't have a video for tomorrow. We're kind of starting to focus more on quality versus quantity on our channel, so we might be switching to fewer episodes per month. We'll see. Yeah,
this may be a semi-permanent thing, just because we're kind of trying to keep video quality and story quality at a certain pace, and we're thinking maybe 3 episodes a month might help out with that. We'll go into more detail into that in a bit. As always, guys, go ahead and ask any questions. We'll hang out. This is just going to be a fun chat.
Yeah.
If we're not able to get to your question or comment, just keep posting it.
Keep asking.
Yep, sorry about that. Also, what other things should we say? We got,
thanks, Tim.
Couple more shout-outs. Yeah, Tim with the first super chat of the night.
Woo!
Awesome, Tim. You are a winner.
From Arizona.
And David Giardo. We got
Giardo.
Max. Hey, Max. We got Aaron Frutos.
Nice.
Luis Gonzalez.
Heidi and Franny.
We got John Briscoe.
Nice.
From Austin. Another one from Austin.
Yeah.
We got Luis Gonzalez is from Boston. Where else we got? Oh, we got Jacob Baldwin in San Francisco.
Nice.
So, thank you guys. And Lisa Repack says
Extrusion!
Here you go. If you guys are playing the Project Atticus drinking game, then that's your first drink of the night.
I think I saw Jim Ulmer.
Extrusion is like... Oh, sorry. Jim Ulmer. Thanks for showing up, buddy. Appreciate you watching. But I think extrusion should be like the always drinking word for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
If you hear extrusion, you are allowed to take a shot.
Yeah.
But if you guys come up with a new drinking word for just this live stream, let's have a rolling discussion about that. We'll come up with a good word.
We are trying to minimize using the word like for ourselves.
Yeah.
So if you want to get really drunk tonight, you can chug when we say like, which will probably be a lot.
Because it just like makes me sound not very intelligent.
Yeah, like I know like exactly what you mean. Like it's kind of like I can't like think of the word.
Yeah, like you're right on. Okay, so let's get into this, guys.
Also, thank you, Scott Liberty, third super chat, as well as Jim Ulmer. I've got a really good question from one of our patrons to kick the night off with. Scott Byard says, you mentioned you aren't sure if you need a water maker. Even if you make the Pacific crossing, are you more concerned about space or energy? And I'll just throw in there, or money.
Good question. Although I do gotta give a shout out here to Stephen James says drinking word should be the. No articles.
Drinking characteristic should be breathing. Every breath in.
Mike and Nice says, like, that's hard.
LOL.
That's awesome. All right, so Yeah, it's a great question about water makers.
Thank you, Aslan.
Is our big concern going to be cost or space, basically, right?
Yeah.
And for us, cost is always an issue.
Cost, space, or energy.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Cost is always a concern, obviously, but we're really... just comes down to it. Space and energy are the things that we're actually shorter on than the money that we're willing to spend on a water maker. As well as the range of water maker prices within the same sort of product style doesn't range that much. I mean, there's definitely some that are more expensive than others. We've been looking at Spectra, and they're definitely more expensive than some of the other ones we've been looking at. And Osmo C is a really good deal. You know what I mean? They've got a good price point. So
I was gonna say, but for the most part, they start at around 4,000 and up.
Yes. Well, but no, that's because you can get real small units too. So that brings in that third characteristic, the space. And so we are starting to look at more or less the smallest units that we can find. The one that we've been looking at recently is the Power Survivor from Spectra. It's super small. It only puts out is it 3 gallons an hour or 2 gallons? It's very, very small. But it'll fit somewhere, which is the winner here. So, I mean, there obviously all three of those are issues, but at the end of the day right now, it's actually space that is the biggest concern for me right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm just starting to look around being like, I don't know where I'm going to install this thing.
Yeah. And we're by no means experts of, what you need on a sailboat. We're kind of more experts in what you need to get by without sinking on a sailboat. And so I would say our water maker journey was, we decided not to get a water maker for the Caribbean for basically monetary reasons. And then we had put in an order for a kind of larger unit with a company called Osmosi before coronavirus. Then coronavirus hit, and we decided to cut back on expenses. We don't really know when we're going to be crossing the Pacific, and so then Jordan kind of started thinking more along the lines of what do we really need even if we were to cross the Pacific. And he's been reading old school sailing books about crossing the Pacific, and we've met people who just crossed the Pacific with a bunch of gallons of water in their V-berth or piled in the bathroom. And so that's kind of where we are now. We're well, you know what? Is it an equipment that you need, or is it just the pressure of modern technology that's weighing down on us? So that's where we are. We don't really know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. But Tracy and Steve are watching. Hey, Tracy.
Cool. Hey, what's
and
up, guys?
She says that Steve says the Survivor one. So
cool.
I think that's probably a good idea. Anyway, do you guys have any opinions on small little water makers that have really low? The thing about small water makers is that they aren't very efficient.
Right.
Bigger water makers use it. I guess you could say your amp hour to gallon ratio would be better. On smaller water makers, you're going to use more electricity per gallon, but you could potentially use less electricity and just use less water and just kind of only make or produce what you drink at the end of the day. So there you go. That's that. We've got BRG Nalf 81 says vodka is better than water. So there you go. What do? We need a distillery. We don't need a water maker.
That is a great point.
We've been going about this all wrong.
Wanted to thank Ashley and Angela Evans, Jonathan Lane, Bev 1976. We've got Zach. He says, I always wondered about the camera shots you take above Atticus. Do you have a drone or something?
Ooh, boy, this is a wonderful time to answer that, because this is a question people ask a lot. So we have 2 drones at the moment. We have a Mavic Pro and we have a Mavic Air. Both foldy drones. One is real small, one is kind of small. And both of them are able to do several different kinds of automatic flight patterns. And so often in drone footage where you see both of us doing something, obviously not flying the drone, we had just set the drone on some sort of a flight pattern put the controller down and then went about doing what we were going to do. And then if the shot seems like it's actually kind of complicated, like there's enough motion where someone must be doing something, that's because we do that in post. So we film at 4K and then we output at 1080. That means that you can zoom in and like move the... There's like... Oh, drinking word is totally like. That...
Totally like or just like?
Is like.
Okay, like.
But if I say totally like ever again, you get to drink like...
Just get the bottle and just take a shower
bottle.
in the bottle.
Yeah. But what I was saying is that I'm able to, in post, zoom in and then move the frame around within the image to make it look like there was more motion than the drone was actually making.
And one last thing about the drone, it's not like we put the drone up and we do one shot and that's what makes it into the video. We actually do like sometimes 5 or more, sometimes 10 like different shots and try it over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's not like Jordan just catches that perfect shot the first time. He's thinking about it and he's, figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. Normally there's a lot of swearing involved. Like Desiree will I'm like, okay, get ready, Desiree. And I'm like, okay, start walking. Blah, bleep, 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 bleep. Okay, reset.
Don't fall off the boat. We're doing it again. Also wanted to thank David Childress. He said, I started watching your channel and now I'm going to build my own sailboat. That's really cool.
Nice. What kind of sailboat?
Yeah. We've got Jen Shorts. We've got Fuel Fire Garage. My grandmother Charlie is sending you this. She is 9 years and in love watching you guys. Oh, that's awesome. My granddaughter, not grandmother. I was like, you have a 9-year-old grandmother? Interesting.
Quick interjection here. Sam Case, it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Sam Case.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Sam. Happy birthday to you.
There you go.
Kimber Che, we've got Trip on 2 Wheels. Thank you so much.
You better say hi to your mom. She's here.
Hey, Mom.
Hello, Mrs. Golan.
We've got Zero Roadkill. Jordan, I work with your mom at... Hewlett Packard in Palo Alto in the 1980s and 1990s. You guys are awesome. Always wanted to sail to Hawaii, but never made it. That is so freaking cool.
Yeah, cool. Zero Roadkill? Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah. And then Sailing Gay Gangster? I gotta be saying that wrong. Thanks so much.
Cool. All right, so we've got, first of all, Wendy suggests that we should sail to Maine. Ooh. And I think we would like to sail to Maine. It'd be nice and cool.
Would love to.
We'll see. That's a long way away. But let's get caught up here. So
I heard someone saying, are you sick of being in Panama? And I would say I'm not sick of being in Panama because it's beautiful and the people here are really nice and we have no shortage of delicious food and produce. And there's actually a lot to see around here. But I think we're both getting a little bit antsy, like a lot of people are, with the restrictions on mobility and not really knowing when borders will be opened or if they will open at all. Yeah,
that's our biggest thing. And in fact, we did title this the video, our upcoming plans. And so we can kind of dive into that a little bit here. Mm-hmm. We currently have basically 2 choices ahead of us. And I mention this because I would say that probably the biggest frustration right now is just not having a clue what we're going to do next. But we do have we know what our options are. The 2 options basically come down to cross the Pacific next year, just like we were hoping. But it's going to be a good question whether or not that's possible. It's going to depend on whether or not the island nations in the South Pacific open their borders up to visiting yachts. And if there is a realistic risk that they're going to close again, right, if there's some sort of a resurgence in the virus. There you go, drink. And so that only time will tell. The other option, if we decide not to cross the Pacific this year, would be to get to the Bahamas. The Bahamas are already open to visiting yachts. You do have to test negative for coronavirus within, I'm not sure, but within a certain time period before you leave for the Bahamas, and then have that paperwork available when you get there. And then I think you still have to do a quarantine when you get there. But the point being that they are one of the relatively few countries that are open to visiting yachts right now. And so that kind of bodes well for them staying open simply because they were one of the first to open.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be our sort of second option.
Mm-hmm.
And then within those options, there's other options. If things are looking real bad in the South Pacific, we can sail to the Bahamas in November. If not, we can wait it out, maybe sail. Anyway, there's several different ways we could handle those variables.
I gotta say, I'm hoping to cross the Pacific. I feel like we've come so far, and we've been like dreaming about this moment for so long. And I get that you can't live your life with such high expectations and be so focused on a goal that you miss out on other opportunities. But I really just have this feeling of like, God, like we're so close. It would be such a pity to turn away now. So, anyways, that's where I am.
Yeah, and I'm right there. We are for the most part in agreement on that, with the exception that for me, if we don't cross the Pacific next year, it just won't be the end of the world, because I know we'll do it another time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot of time ahead of us to cross the Pacific, and so if, say, only 50% of the countries have opened up to visiting yachts, and then the other 50% of the countries that we would like to visit haven't opened up, I would have a really hard time saying that we should do it anyway, just because this very well may be the one time we do a Pacific crossing.
Yeah.
And so it would be a real bummer to not get to see half of the places that we'd like to get to see.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no telling where it's going to be at. Somebody was asking, when would we cross? Theo Herman was asking, when are you planning on crossing? And our strategy would be to leave real early in the season, so probably January or February, sail south to Ecuador from Panama, because you've got good winds pushing you all the way down. Then we would go to the Galapagos in probably March. And then again, good wind going to the Galapagos from Ecuador. And then finally from the Galapagos across, sometime in early, mid-April, something like that. So that would be our time frame, which basically means that we've got to go through the canal, December, maybe January at the latest. Ideally December. So that's kind of when we're going to have to make that. That's going to be the fork in the road. December will be, do we plan on going north or do we plan on going west?
And I will say that there are boats that are still crossing the canal, still transiting the canal and still crossing the Pacific and making it to French Polynesia without checking in. So that is possible. And from what we've heard on the street is that they've had no problems with authorities yet, but that's kind of not really our style. I don't like that feeling of feeling like I'm doing something wrong. So if the borders don't open up for us, that's not something we would do. Thank you, Nick Roberts. Thank you, Jeffrey Abbott. He says, Atticus rocks. Keep crushing it. Thanks. We've got Brandon White. We've got Tina Morrison. She says, hello from Tina in Orlando. We had a really good question. Jonathan Lane. Thank you so much. Question was about how long it takes. Okay, yeah, Stuart Damon, thank you again. He says, how long did it take you to get your boat ready for these long trips and have the confidence to take them?
How long did it take you to get... Oh, gosh. I mean, for us, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, because we've been working on the boat ever since we bought it, really, and so we worked on the boat for about 2 years until we did our first trip.
Yeah.
Right?
Just like a motor.
Yeah, and that was just not very far away. That's season 2, episode 1, if you're curious. And it was just the smallest, tiniest little trip you could imagine. And then we've just been sort of taking bigger and bigger steps and making the boat more and more ready for those bigger steps. So I hate to evade the question, but really it's not straightforward.
Yeah.
And that's particular to us because we bought the boat in such bad condition. If you were to buy a boat, it's possible to buy a boat that you could take out on a 100-mile trip to, the next day. That's definitely possible. So.
That being said, it's not just that Atticus was kind of a piece of crap and needed a lot of work, and we needed to really build our confidence in her. It's also, I think, intimidating if you have a really nice boat that you have a lot of confidence in. There's a lot of little skills like anchoring or passage making, weather routing, being in your first storm. Those are things that were really intimidating initially. Like I remember our first storm that we sailed through on Atticus, and it was like terrifying because you could hear the water swash on the hull, and
and Atticus gets tossed around a lot. You know? I mean, it's a small boat. You don't need very big waves before those waves are fairly big compared to Atticus, right? And so the motion can get pretty gnarly.
Right. So there's a learning curve with just like getting to know your boat and the sounds that it makes, and not making an idiot of yourself when you drop anchor in a new anchorage. Those are all things that took us a long time to get used to. And then also one thing that I think a lot of people go through when they have their first boat is learning how to like sleep at night and trusting your anchor. There's a fine line between, being super paranoid, checking on your anchor all the time, super cautious, versus just being like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you have to tell that part of your brain that is panicking.
Yeah.
To like, I mean, go ahead and panic, right? Like, be terrified, but you really need to sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, I still feel that way a little bit, but man, that first trip was something else.
Yeah.
Trying to sleep when you're just convinced you're going to sink any moment. Yeah.
David Flash, thank you so much. He wants to know the significance of your tattoo.
Oh, boy. So, this one.
A sentence.
And this always happens.
Okay,
that
nice.
is it sideways, and that's just a mainsail going over the sunset. So it's like a there you go. Yeah, there you go. So that's like a sailboat with only its main up, sailing past the sunset this way. And then this is streamlines. This is the way the air flows over the mainsail and a headsail on a sailboat. So that's what creates lift.
We actually got that graphic out of a book.
Yeah, the technical sailing book.
And
go on.
Brad Scott says, "Where is the effing hat?"
Sorry, wait, which hat? You want the cowboy hat, or he probably wants the cowboy hat? So, Brad, Desiree doesn't like the cowboy hat, and I'm stuck in here. I can't get out. So unless we can convince Desiree to get the cowboy hat, I don't think it's happening.
It's hard to see, but because Atticus...
Here, I'll put this one on though.
Yeah.
So Desiree got me this, and that's the tattoo.
Yeah.
She got me this for my birthday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So pretty cool.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but because Atticus is so small, right now this table here that the computer's on is taking up all of our walking space. So I'd have to go underneath the table and
she'd have to go around, trip over the camera, the camera would fall over, grab the hat.
You'd get messy.
Tracy is asking, are the sandblasts open to us right now? And that's a great question. So the sandblasts are the other main cruising attraction on the Caribbean coast of Panama. So Bocas Del Toro is awesome cruising ground, and then the sandblasts are more tropical, beachy islands, and they are closed still. So they're a semi-autonomous region that are kind of controlled by the natives that live there, and they are calling the shots, and they have closed the area. And they haven't really given a whole lot of information since they closed. So I have no idea how much longer they'll be closed for.
Yeah.
And that's another one of those things where a lot of people have told us you could probably just go there.
Right.
And they probably wouldn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta choose when to do shady stuff like that wisely.
Yeah, actually, Jocko and Cristal are mutual friends of Tracy. They're in the San Blas Islands, and
that's right.
They were telling us they could give us coordinates so that we can come in at night. And anchor.
They're like, dude, just come over here.
And they're showing us pictures of big fish that they've been spearfishing. Yeah. It's tempting, but tempting. I don't like that feeling of feeling like I'm doing something wrong. Crawford Media Company, thank you so much. They said, where do you guys grow up and eventually meet? You can check out the first episode of our whole series, and it goes through all of our meeting story. But I grew up in Florida. Jordan grew up in Santa Cruz, California, and we met working on super yachts. No. Zach says, how do you guys get dental care when you're moving around so much? My teeth are basically going to fall out of my head. Like,
man, I'm just trying to get her to brush her teeth every day. That's a struggle enough.
I am really
like,
gross.
Have you brushed your teeth today? She's like, I mean, what do you mean, brush your teeth?
People around me must be really polite because I go days without brushing my teeth and, like, nobody's like...
It helps to be an attractive woman. Because if I didn't brush my teeth, people would just smack me. Be like, get out of here.
I am like the nastiest human
to me.
being. I go like weeks without showering and I smell and Jordan's like, come on.
Yeah.
Kick it up a notch.
But realistically, we actually have not done any dental work since we've started cruising.
Actually, when we were in Mexico, in Cancun, there's a huge medical tourism market out there, and so I actually did go in and get my teeth cleaned there. And it's possible. You can basically, a lot of the major cities in these Western Caribbean countries actually have really great packages for expats. So we could go, if it weren't for coronavirus, to Panama City and get our teeth done, but we're just real lazy and we probably should take better care of our teeth.
Yeah, it's something we should do more. We don't do a lot of preventative, like, medical, like, drink. We don't do a lot of preventative stuff with how our relationship is to the medical industry, but we are generally able to get things done when we really have to. To be fair, we do try to be healthy generally. Yeah. I mean,
try
that's
to exercise,
that's something.
Eat well, drink a lot of rum.
So David Molo says, do you ever get bored? And, we might if we didn't have the channel.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of, every now and then you come into one of these catch-22s where we're trying to portray the cruising lifestyle, but in certain ways we don't live a normal cruising lifestyle. And so for that question, it's exactly that scenario. I would imagine that some people cruising can get bored sometimes, but for us it's almost impossible because we're just always behind on something, whether it be editing, filming, boat maintenance, boat projects, sailing. We're always very busy.
Yeah, and the way that our kind of lifestyle works is we'll go off and explore for a little while and film everything, and then once that becomes a little bit like the feeling of you're just on vacation eternally and you're getting a little bit lethargic, then we come back to civilization, start working on a project, dive back into, editing and things like that. So we always have a nice ebb and flow. That being said, the people around us, if you met us in an Anchorage, you'd think we were the most boring people because we are very regimented in our schedule.
Yeah, and we're always sort of not around. It's like, oh, where's Desiree and Jordan? Oh, they're just in their boat. I don't know. And we're probably
what do they do down there?
Editing or something. And it's very odd, right? It's a small boat.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we just won't even get off this tiny little boat for an entire 24 hours because we're editing or working on something.
Yeah. And so people will come by and invite us out to like spearfish or like do a potluck or something like that, and we're just like, we're busy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I should say though that I bet you that the average cruiser isn't terribly bored very often either, just because boats in general are always trying to corrode to nothing, and they're trying to sink, and they're trying to hit things, and I mean, the maintenance involved with boats is nonstop.
Yeah.
And so, is it always fun? Definitely not. But is it necessarily boring? I wouldn't say it's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be our personality type also. For those of you out there who live on your boat or are cruising, like, do you get bored? What do you think?
Yeah. In fact, I read a quote one time, or a line from a book that said that most people, when preparing for their first offshore sail, they prepare for boredom and disaster.
Yeah.
And so, right, they want to bring a lot of books because they're going to have a lot of time to read, and they're going to bring like storm sails and a para-anchor because they're preparing for 70 knot winds. And the vast majority of the time, neither of those things are going to happen. You're not going to be bored because you're busy doing little tiny things, and you're not going to have any form of disaster. Dad's YouTube asks why the name Atticus, and that's a good one that we haven't really talked about for a while. I'll make it brief because I know a lot of you guys are familiar with this story, but basically it comes from the book To Kill a Mockingbird, the character Atticus Finch. I was just really inspired by that character, and it's a book and it's a movie, and I'm a huge fan of the movie, actually, with Gregory Peck. And basically that character has really inspired me a lot. His concept of wanting to understand the world and to understand, the real core truth below a situation in order to act justly and in order to be able to stand up for what's right. And I love that idea. Not just the fact of standing up for what's right, but doing it as a result of learning and understanding the world. And so Desiree really liked that idea too, when we were talking about sailing around the world, that in a way you learn about how the world works and how people are.
Well, actually, it's funny because Jordan told me about how much he loved the character Atticus Finch when we were just friends, and I remember I said, like, man, like, you're gonna have such an awesome time, and like, man, you're gonna find like the coolest girl to go with you, and then I was like, you should name your boat Atticus, because I could tell from our conversation that it really, really touched him. And I remember there's this blogger, Captain Fatty Goodlander.
He's a writer.
Yeah, and he would call his wife like his sweet little ass or something like that.
Sweet little ass.
Yeah.
It's something he doesn't call her that all the time. But yeah.
Anyways, Jordan was telling me all about his like sailing dreams, and I was just there to listen, and I never thought in a million years I'd be the one on the boat with him, and that he would actually call it Atticus, and I'd be like, yeah, let's name it Atticus. So it was funny because I remember being like, yeah, you're gonna find like the sweetest little ass, and like you're gonna be on your boat Atticus sailing around the world, and like email me, it'll be so cool.
Yeah, that's funny.
I got some more thank yous.
Yes, go ahead.
Joe Bob James, thank you so much. He says, love your videos, just wish they were a little longer.
Me too, man. I'm right there with you. That's a lot of the reason we're dropping down to 3 episodes a month, because if we want to have the quality that we've been going for and have them not be 10 minutes long, then we need to reduce something. And so anyway,
that's what we're thinking. Matthew Mitchell for the thermometers, LOL. Scott Klein, we've got Andy Smith. He said, what's been your favorite anchorage spot and why since leaving Florida? Cayo Campos, Cuba.
I think it's got to be Cayo Campos, Cuba. Yeah, and if you're curious about what that looked like, that was you can go to the episode.
The Reef is Our Grocery Store.
Yeah, Sailing on a Budget, The Reef is Our Grocery Store, and then also the one right before that, which is Sailboat Life, Living Off the Sea. Those are the 2 episodes from Cayo Campos.
And I think the reason we liked it was because it's crystal clear blue waters. The island on it had an aquifer, so we had fresh water. From
just a well. I mean, it was amazing.
Super secluded, hard to get to. We were spearfishing every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we were there with really good friends.
We had friends.
Yeah. So if we...
It just had everything going for it. There was, a couple of guys on the island that we could trade rum for fish and lobsters. So,
and there was a place to walk, a really long trail that you could walk around the island, which we've been realizing when we're off grid. In this area, it's very mangrovey, so there haven't been places that we could actually get off the boat and walk. So that's something that I really like in an anchorage.
Yeah.
And then also Providencia, Colombia. Lars, thank you so much. Lars K, Matthew Dage, I probably butchered that name. Joy Ellison, they said they bought their first sailboat because of us. Thanks, guys, that's so cool.
Very
cool.
A
small Newport 16. You're going to have such a good time. Mike Pastor, Trevor Evans, and Trevor's asking if we'll see him in the Philippines. He really wants us to go there.
Sure hope to.
I would love to. We'll see. You got a good question?
You done?
Yeah.
So real quick, we've got Ellen Fiore says, have you been ill at all? It's a good question, and not really. In Mexico, Desiree had a cyst burst, which, I mean, so what, right? Boo-hoo. But she freaked out, so, had to go to the doctor.
It was confusing.
I'm just kidding. She had something blow up inside her, yeah. but that was when we were in Isla Mujeres, so there was a fertility clinic, in was it a fertility clinic or just a lady parts doctor? I don't know. What do you call those things?
Yeah, it was called a Cancun fertility clinic.
Yeah, okay. And it was a part of that whole medical tourism facility thing they have
people go there to have babies.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure I wasn't having a baby
Yeah.
because I thought maybe I had a little fallopian baby. And I was like, I don't want fallopia.
Yeah. So we haven't been ill with the exception of that. And that actually worked out really well in the sense that it was our first experience dealing with a medical issue abroad. And it was extremely affordable, and we banged out several things in one day. I mean, seeing this doctor, getting this scan, seeing the doctor again. So I highly recommend medical tourism. I mean, we've had a very, very brief and minimal experience with it, but if you're trying to save a little bit of money, do some research. There's definitely some very, very good parts of the world. I mean, very, very there's parts of the world, specific places that cater to doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think
and it could be really good quality.
It was $50 for consultation, an hour with the doctor, and a ultrasound. It was awesome.
Yeah, and then Lon Pribble asks, what is the name of the new dinghy? And that's a good question.
That is a good one. Hold on. I've got some really good... hang on. Our patrons threw out some good ideas. Huge Shit from Peter Ferguson.
Okay.
Big Turd from Josh Jackling.
Yeah.
Bud Light from Lori Cawthon. I think Brad Scott's gonna like that.
Brad Scott definitely gets credits for that though.
The Deuce, because it's a shit and second dinghy.
And it's number 2.
Double
That's
entendre.
pretty clever.
Yeah.
Let's get in Deuce.
Yeah.
Deucer.
The Deuce. I like the Deuce.
Get in the Deuce.
Yeah. Little Buddy.
Little Buddy.
And then Jim Morrison recommended Scout, but that is a cute, very fitting name, but for me it's like too cutesy. Like, that's kind of why Jordan...
We like the shit, you know?
That's why kind of Jordan calls me Bud. Like, when we first started dating, he tried to call me, like, really cutesy pet names, and I was like, listen, I'm not into that. So he jokingly started calling me, like, bro, and dude, and man, and bud, and so...
And hombre.
Hombre, yep.
Yeah.
And then the last suggestion was Tough Shit, which is, pretty good too, because it's tougher than Little Shit. So we'll see.
Tough Shit is cool. I like that, and it's another double entendre. How do you say that?
Entendre, I think.
Double entendre.
Yeah.
It's another double entendre. You know, like tough shit, and it's tough. It's like Little Shit, but tough.
Yeah.
So I like it. So let us know what you
tongue.
guys think. Tough Shit. Let's get in Tough Shit. Like, man, Tough Shit is not doing too well today.
I don't think that works.
It's not bad.
I like the Deuce better.
Deuce.
Yeah. How's the Deuce doing?
The Deuce.
Get in the Deuce.
That it does get. I like saying it. Yeah.
But I still like Little Shit too. That's like when you're really frustrated and like Little Shit's being bad. I want to be like, Little Shit.
Little Shit.
I
know it's gonna be so hard to beat Little Shit.
Yeah, we'll see.
That was such a good. I think we just. We peaked early,
yeah,
you know?
I know.
I mean, the very first dinghy, and we just nailed the name.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So, I think maybe, like, by the time we get the outboard on and go for the first ride, we should think of a name. Because I feel like we might be tempted to just not name it.
Yeah.
And, like, be a little kid without a name.
So, Jamie Balzer says, I had dental work in Costa Rica. It was the best and so cheap.
There you go.
So, there you go. Yeah, that's enough. And plus, you can basically have a vacation where the money that you save on whatever medical stuff you're getting done can more or less pay for at least the flight for your vacation, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a win-win situation.
And then Jack Belise was asking, where did Little Shit end up? And we sold it to a guy down the dock who was looking for a dinghy. So it worked out really well.
Dude, we're getting a lot of love for the Deuce.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
The Deuce.
Okay, another good question from Mark. He says, could you talk about your per-month living expenses? You can, maybe it's different before coronavirus and now, but on average.
Yeah, so it actually hasn't changed. If anything, with coronavirus, we spend less because there's nothing to spend money on. I mean, I don't know what we just buy food, really. So we generally have planned on a budget of $1,200 a month, and that is eating well, but not out, if that makes sense. So we really buy nice food at the grocery store. We don't buy a lot of snacks or anything, but the meat, the vegetables, the whatever, you name it, it's all good quality. And that's sort of, a while back we decided that is a good way to actually save money. Is spend your money at the grocery store so that you're not tempted to go to expensive restaurants. So $1,200 a month. You can definitely spend less than that in the Caribbean, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that we know that, they get by on very little. But that's going to be, a lot of that's going to be saving money on food, right?
And I would say it depends on where you're going. So Bocas Del Toro is extremely affordable. And a lot of the countries that we go to, the local vegetables are very, very cheap. Like, I get 4 pounds of carrots for $2 in Bocas del Toro. So you can get by with very little in the Western Caribbean in our experience, with the exception of Belize was really expensive. I think I remembered 2 zucchinis was like $5 or $6. And then the Grand Cayman Islands, that was super expensive. So it just depends on where you are and then what kinds of things you're comfortable eating. So like if you can get by without expat, mustards and cheeses and deli meats and things like that, if you just buy all local stuff, then you're saving a lot of money. You're living like the locals. So yeah. So and then real quick, Shelley Meredith just said, did you hear about the passing of Larry Party? Yeah.
And it's definitely something that we should mention, because Lynn and Larry Party were huge inspirations to us. And if you guys haven't read their books, definitely check them out. They're extremely inspirational, and they were pivotal to our theory on kind of putting your adventure and lifestyle first, and kind of the I guess size and cost of your home second, right? And our whole theory on getting the smallest boat that you're comfortable with. That all really stemmed from Lynn and Larry Party. So, want to make our appreciation for what they did and how they told their story, known that really meant a lot to us. And Larry was just a real inspiration from a like someone who worked on boats and was just a magician with boats. We used to say
we used to be annoyed when we read his stories about I just whipped up a rudder from this tree I found on the side of the road. We were like, how?
yeah. And we just kind of and we would even say how are we going to get jobs working as we sail? And then Desiree would be like, well, Larry got jobs working on boats, blah blah. I'd be like, yeah, but that guy's like a boat building savant, right?
Yeah.
He was just the man with boats. So anyway,
the green thumb for boats. But anyways,
definitely a very, very sad time for cruisers and sailing dreamers alike. So,
so if as a way to kind of honor his memory, if you guys wanted to check out their books, kind of learn more about them, they've got a bunch of books. We can link to some of Lynn's books in the description below after this.
Yeah.
They're really awesome. Okay, wanted to announce the winner for the first giveaway is Priscilla McNeil. And they also said, we love you guys. Thanks for the education and entertainment. Tom and Priscilla from Michigan.
All right.
So, yay, congratulations.
So Priscilla McNeil.
Yeah.
So if you're there, Priscilla, you can...
Yes, shoot me an email at des@projectatticus.com with what item you want from our merch store, which is linked to down below, and what size and color you want. And we'll get that to you ASAP. So congratulations, and thanks for playing.
Cool. Now, we are going to do one more giveaway.
Yeah,
and do you want to tell us about that?
We'll do a trivia round at 9:30 Eastern Time.
Okay, 9:30 Eastern Time, we're going to do Atticus trivia. So don't go anywhere. There's one more chance to win some awesome Project Atticus swag. So let's continue. Party on, Wayne.
Party on.
So we have another question here. from, excuse me, sorry.
I'm going to do a couple more thank yous while you're getting it.
You go ahead, yeah.
Okay. SV Green Turtle. We've got Dennis Anderson, referee 583. Ray DeBurge. I probably butcher your name every time. So sorry. They're in the Bahamas. Here's some fuel money for the windward passage to the Bahamas. Thanks, guys. Jay Simmons, CIS Koosh. SV Spirit Libre again. Paul and Valerie Wellner. You guys are awesome. Go ahead.
Okay. So we've got John Norden asks, is your outboard repaired?
John.
And first of all, hey John, what's going on, buddy? The outboard is not repaired. That's going to be a big topic for next week's episode. And it's actually become just a bigger project than I thought.
Yeah.
So without going into too many details now, when you break a gear in the transmission like that, it's best to kind of replace everything, and then when you replace everything, making sure that all the gears are aligned properly with shims is kind of a complicated task, and if you want to do it properly, you need specialized tools. So it's just become one of those crazy projects where I'm trying to decide what corners I can cut and what corners I can't cut, and I don't want to cut any corners, but it's just it's not getting done if I don't. So it's becoming one of the more research heavy projects that I've had to do in a long time. So but that's kind of how it is with a lot of boat projects, is no one comes into this. Some people do, but very few people come into this really knowing what they're doing. And some of the stuff on boats can get pretty complicated. So a lot of it is just like giving yourself an education. Yeah. And that's what I've been doing this week, is just researching.
That's partly why we are not releasing an episode this week, is because Jordan ended up spending about 3 days researching, calling different mechanics, and talking to Daihatsu.
Talking to Daihatsu dealerships.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So anyways, we just, we could have thrown together kind of a crappy episode, but we're just kind of ridiculously obsessive compulsive when it comes to our videos. So we're like, let's give ourselves another week, film something actually interesting, and then release it next week. So.
But I don't know I don't want to give it that kind of a wrap. I think we've just made a good decision to focus on, keeping the quality high, so I'll stand by it. I stand by it.
Okay.
And I haven't said like in a while, so like extrusion. Totally like. There you go.
Crap.
That's the mother of all drinking phrases.
Thanks also to SV Someday, Sailing Aegean Star. Really nice guy named Alex is 10 years old. Is that right, Alex? He sent us a video. He wants to make YouTube videos. So thanks for sending us that. Keep up the good work. JD Sleesman, nice name. Teresa Mark, Peta, Bob Lau, Brandy Justin Oni. Do you got another question?
I do. So Luke Dalabona, boy, I probably said that wrong. Dalabona says, since you've been stuck in Panama, have you found that your Spanish language skills have been improving? There you go. That one's for you. That one's for my homies. I'd say, has my Spanish gotten any better?
I would say Jordan can understand a lot more than he used to.
That's a good point.
He can stand there and kind of piece together the puzzle of what's happening. Sometimes he gets it really wrong, and I'm like, did you get what happened? He's like, yeah, he said this. And I'm like, no, that's not what he said at all. But 9 out of 10 times, you're on it. So
yeah, but I'm just not that naturally good at languages, I don't think. And so I'm just starting to realize that, because some things come to me fairly naturally, and language just isn't. I shouldn't make too many excuses. If I were to immerse myself, that would be what I need to do. And ironically, I just don't do a lot of speaking Spanish, and it's weird, but it's really the reality.
We found in a lot of the cruising hubs, you can get by without speaking any Spanish. There's usually like marina owners or other boaters who speak English, so it's definitely possible, and I'm hoping that's the case for French Polynesia, because I do not speak a lick of French.
Right, yeah. So it's really just those times where you're at the hardware store, you're talking to a local mechanic, and sure, those happen. They do happen somewhat frequently, but it's not every day, right? It's not even every other day a lot of times. So that's not immersion, you know.
And I would say for me, my Spanish is really good when I like have a goal and I'm just trying to ask a specific question. But I'm really bad at pleasantries. So people are often surprised because I can ask really complicated questions, but I don't know like the cool way to be like, how's it going? What's going on? You know, and so I end up just like saying weird things. So my Spanish is okay. Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Rob M. Thank you, Jeffrey Abbott. He says, we got Nick Roberts, Meg and Steve. You guys are awesome. Tina Morrison again. Brandon White, Foxglove Studio. What software do you use to prepare your show update? This is OBS. Is that right?
Hold on. Brent Madison just made a great point. He's laughing. He's like, how much more immersion do you need? It's a great point. I've lived in Spanish-speaking countries for like 3 years now.
It would probably help if
I know. I suck. That's what it is. No, I suck.
We delegate our responsibilities. So
that's a good way to put it.
If Spanish speaking is necessary, then I kind of take the lead.
Yeah.
So.
Just like how if there's engine problems, Desiree has lived on Atticus for 6 years now, and she's not a very good mechanic.
Or sailor.
Well, but you're a better sailor than mechanic, right? And so she's been immersed in boat projects.
Do you need some WD-40?
Yeah, I could use some. That'd be great. But that's our joke, because one time I was talking about some complicated problem with the engine, and she's like, well, could you just put some WD-40 on it? And she was serious. I'm like, no. Like, that's definitely not a solution. And she's like, oh, okay. And so ever since then, we were like, maybe a little WD-40.
You never know.
Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, right, that's a good analogy. So she's not the best mechanic, but she's been surrounded by it for a couple years.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways, Desiree is our go-to language person. If things need to get communicated, she's on it. And so, and I suck at it, and I don't particularly like have an easy time learning languages. So there you go. Laziness, natural inability. She's good at it. Bada bing bada. I can't really speak Spanish. Yeah.
So I just realized we're basically almost an hour in, so we wanted to spend about 15 minutes just answering some of our patron questions. So we've got a question from Sean, and he was asking, which bank or credit card have you found for international travel that you like and trust? That's accepted over all regions that you're traveling, that allows for cash withdrawals with no steep fees, things like that.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of research into that, and if you're going to be changing the country that you're in regularly, then I think Capital One is the way to go. And now that's just for ATMs. If you're looking at credit cards, then there's all kinds of different credit cards that'll give you better rewards and stuff, and that's changing all the time. But for actual banking, like checking and stuff like that, Capital One seems to be the best. They do a good job of, there's no international transaction fees. There's, for the most part, they don't even have actual branches, so it's all done online anyway. So yeah, Capital One. Yeah.
Next question is from Lisa Repack. She says, what would you say would be the deal breaker in a project? As in, if you're going to buy a boat, what would make you walk away? Justin Wright also asks, what are some projects on a used boat that you would not want to fix, aka problems to avoid?
That's a
hold a deck joint.
No, because I'm like trying to think. Such a good question.
Yeah.
It's such a good question, and I'd say it's the kind of thing that it all comes down to access in a way. That, let me just say this. I'm not even going to attempt to answer that question in an all-encompassing way, because if there's 100 little projects, then I'm walking away, even though no single project is too big of a deal. One thing I'm never doing again is recoring a boat.
That was
the deck of a boat. I'm not doing that again. But something I've thought about is you can just sail to Guatemala, and there's people that are good at it there. We have friends, Steve and Tracy, who are watching, who had it done in the Bay Islands in Honduras.
But they got it redone with plywood.
Yeah, but still, I mean, if you bring the material, the point is the labor. It's very intensive. Mm-hmm. But if you get the boat to a place like Guatemala, the labor's cheap and they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But I'd say the thing I would just walk away from is something where the access is really bad. So some sort of an integral water tank or fuel tank, if it's gone bad, or if an engine has gone bad and you can't get the engine out and you're going to have to cut a hole into the deck or whatever. A situation where, to fix the problem means that you've got to tear the boat apart. I'm not into that kind of thing anymore.
We actually lucked out with Atticus. We needed to repower Atticus because when we bought it, the engine was just like sitting in water for a couple of years. And we lucked out
Sorry, go on.
We lucked out that we could actually get it out of Atticus without having to cut through the deck.
Yeah.
We had some naysayers standing around the boat being like,
you're not getting that out.
Cut that out. And we were like, oh my God. Along those lines, real quick question. John Neal Rhodes was asking, have you considered doing any interior remodeling to Atticus?
Real quick, Court Jester just said, damn it, 15 shots now. Oh, man.
Thank you, old school dad.
Sorry, Court Jester.
Oh, and also Mike Pastore was saying hello from your firefighter friends in Florida. They sent a really sweet email to us a while ago, so thanks so much for watching.
Yeah, rock on, guys.
And then again, John was asking, have you guys considered doing any interior remodeling on Atticus? And I would just say, when we bought Atticus, our goal was to get it comfortable, so get the electricity, the plumbing, the bathroom, get some nice foam and curtains, so it like kind of made it look nice-ish, but to not spend too much time making the inside look and feel beautiful. So there's paint chipping everywhere. There's exposed wires, there's bolts that you can see.
Yeah.
And I will say that sometimes, like when I'm in a bad mood or it's really hot or it's really rainy, I look around and I'm like, we live in a dump and this sucks. And I will say there's something to be said about like having a beautiful space that you can like call home.
Yeah.
But for us, we decided not to do anything aesthetic on the interior, just because I personally would rather be sailing and exploring and enjoying the perks of being on a boat rather than like gutting our interior.
Yeah, but I will say that wasn't a just blanket choice that we made early on. I think because we talked about redoing the interior at first, right? And what happened was we spent so much time on the projects that we did do that Desiree actually made a really great point. After we worked on the boat for 3 years, I started saying things like, well, maybe we could redo the interior. And she's like, listen, we need to cruise for as long as we have worked on this boat before I want to do more work. And here we are doing more work again, but at least we got in a solid, I don't know, year and a half of cruising.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I actually still have one of our first to-do lists. And we're like, we'll make a cabinet there, and we'll tear that down, and it's just, we never got to that stuff and never looked back. I never looked back.
Yeah, so that's what it really came down to, was we were just, we had lost our enthusiasm. What is the word? Like, we lost our gumption, right? We had spent up all of our refit energy, so to speak, and we were like, this is just not going to be worth it if we don't go out cruising. So, and we just haven't really gotten back to that point because we keep having to do projects that are more necessary than refinishing the interior. So it's something we'd love to do. And it's one of the problems with buying a really old boat is you feel like you're never catching up to the stuff that's really, really needs to be done. I mean, projects that just need to get done, and it's a safety issue.
Juan Reyes was asking, do you have Wi-Fi when you're sailing? And then Dustin Wagaman, one of our patrons, was asking, what are you using for international and local communications? Burner phones, GSM phones, or just local SIM cards, international plans? Like, Google Fi or T-Mobile.
Yeah. So we've found that pretty much flat out the best thing is to use local SIM cards in your phone. And then different countries are going to have completely different plans and prices. But it's just not that big of a deal. The first day we're in a new country, we basically go check in with the authorities, and then what?
Susan wanted to see your name.
Sorry, my big old face is in the way. So we check in with the authorities. We get a SIM card, and then we get a bunch of beer, and then we go to the boat and drink and look at the internet. And it's a little bit on the expensive side compared to what you might pay for internet in your home or apartment, but it's so convenient. And so what we do is, on my phone, I just have a unlimited internet package for my phone only, so I can't hotspot. And for that, it's $20 a month. And then Desiree, we gave her the unlimited hotspotting, and so that's actually how we're live streaming right now. Is we're hotspotting from her phone.
And that's $40 a month.
And that's $40 a month. So we pay $60 a month. And we use way more internet than a normal cruiser would, right? Like, there's no need for us to really have both phones if it weren't for maintaining a YouTube channel and everything else.
Most people could get by using that unlimited plan, so that'd be $40 total per month.
$40 a month, and it's just like, that's all the internet that you need.
Yeah. But we need to hotspot, so.
Yeah. And we need Netflix, man.
Yeah.
What else are we supposed to do out here?
Yeah, and
just go spearfishing and stuff? No way.
Referee 583 was asking, do you guys still have a satellite phone on board? And a shout out to all the cops in NJ. Yes, we have a DeLorme InReach, and then we also have an Iridium Go. And so we actually shut down our plan for the DeLorme InReach and kind of switched over to the Iridium Go. Right now, we actually don't have any of our subscriptions active, though, because we're in a marina and we haven't really done any offshore passages, so it was kind of a way for us to cut down on our expenses. Thank you, Sean D. Thank you, Michael Miller. Okay, cool. I think I'm caught up on thank yous. Sweet.
Okay, very cool.
I got another question from Brad Scott. What do you do for boat?
Mr. Scott.
What do you do for boat and personal security while at anchor? You do have companionways, which is very defensive, but are you prepared with flares, wasps/hornet spray, tasers? I want a taser. Poison darts, also want those. Or particle beams, etc.
Yeah. What we do is we do what the lady did at the end of Alien 2 or Aliens, where she gets 3 different guns and then puts a bar through all the triggers and then tapes them together, and she just flamethrower, bullets, everything. That's what we've been doing lately.
Yeah.
Before we got that arrangement, though, we just had... Well, can you grab the pepper spray?
Yeah, we have a bunch of pepper spray around the boat.
Desiree has these strategically placed throughout the boat.
I cannot move right now without being able to touch a pepper spray.
Yeah.
I've also got a knife near the companion. A knife.
This was a cool, really neat present from my brother Jason. And
we've also got
this is the small one. I've got a big machete over there. So this is actually not for protection at all. But so we've got the pepper spray, and I did a lot of research, and I don't want to enter the gun debate, but I will say that even if I wanted to have guns, it seems like it's just not practical if you're on the move regularly.
Unless you want to do it illegally.
Yeah, because you have to declare it when you get to a country. Most countries will confiscate it and keep it in customs, and you have to go back to that same port to retrieve it when you leave. They won't forward it to the port that you're leaving from, generally speaking. And so that just doesn't work, because most of the time we're leaving a country from a different port than we entered. And so I did a lot of research, and basically pepper spray is probably the most effective non-lethal defense stuff that you can get.
And then we do other things like research the anchorage before we go to it. We ask locals, like, what do you think about this anchorage? We check the CSSN to see if there's been any reports of piracy or theft or, like, aggression towards cruisers nearby. And basically we kind of like get the feel for an anchorage. We make sure we don't leave anything out on deck. We bring the outboard up every night. We close all of our lifelines, so it's harder to get on the boat. We would like to install some security lights. We actually have some pirate lights from a really cool company. This guy's a cruiser, and he and his wife designed these really awesome security lights with a sound system. I think Captain Rick Moore has them.
Yeah.
But we haven't installed them yet.
Could you grab one of the security bars, or are you kind of tucked in?
They know about them.
Yeah, you probably saw in one of our episodes the security bars. We actually need to show them.
Right.
Now that we've figured out how to use them, but we have bars over our forward hatch, and then we've got bars that go. Well, we don't really use those.
We got these before we committed to our pirate light security system.
Desiree wants to talk about.
But we do have motion
the
detectors.
Dinky $5 motion detectors that I bought on Amazon.
Don't come near Atticus.
And we don't use them anymore because, like, the first time I set them up, they went off. They were super loud, and there was nobody there. So, but we have the security bars, and that's actually really made a big difference to us. So, all joking aside, the security bars, I think, are the real clutch thing here. And I hate to be a paranoid cruiser, but the security bars make us less paranoid because we know that when we're asleep, no one could just come on down, right? Like, yes, of course, you could still get kind of aggressively attacked by somebody, but the odds of that are happening is so low. And so the security bars really just help us to sleep better at night, you know?
Really good question from Jay Simmons. He said, ever worry about lightning striking you out at sea?
Yes.
Definitely.
It's probably the main thing I worry about other than striking some sort of semi-submerged object, you know? Not so much out at sea. Definitely concerns me out at sea. The thing is, it worries me everywhere, right? And we've had a few situations where the lightning got real close.
Yeah, and especially in Panama, we've heard of a lot of people who've gotten stroke here. And it's just kind of like something that we hope doesn't happen. And if it does, we got to replace all of our electronics, and hopefully no one gets hurt. So, yeah, it's kind of like a game of statistics at that point, you know?
Yeah, and he also asked, like, what do we do about it? And we actually don't do anything. We don't even have our rig grounded. And I know there's definitely a lot of controversy about that. A lot of people think you should ground it. A lot of people think you should put the dissipators up the mast. The fact of the matter is there is very, very little scientific evidence about anything with regards to how to prevent or handle lightning strikes. And so with not enough evidence, I just decided to not do anything, you know. And once evidence starts to come out that one thing is better than another, then we'll do something about it. But I will say, like, I've seen some people's rig grounded so that theoretically the lightning would travel through this wire, but it's grounded by this tiny little 8 gauge or 6 gauge wire. I'm like, do you know how much electricity, like how much voltage and is going through a lightning bolt and that wire is supposed to handle? I mean, it's just not going to happen. So if you're going to actually do that, you've got to have some heavy duty cable set up.
Two quick questions. MJ Clements was asking, who do you use for a carrier for your phones? And we just bought unlocked Android phones so that we don't have a plan associated with the United States at all. We just buy locally.
Yeah.
SIM cards.
Yeah, exactly.
Christopher Hutchins was asking, what have you done with your Hank on sales? I just bought a budget cruiser. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It would be cool to go to the Bahamas and fly some sails with a pedigree. And actually there's a young couple in our marina. They also got our fridge, so they've got our sails right now, and they were getting ready to buy some used sails, so it worked out really well.
Yeah, it worked out great, and I was so happy that those sails were able to just go to people who could really use them, you know? And yeah, they're on a tight budget, and a lot of people here are on a tighter budget than they would be otherwise with COVID, you know. We are able to continue to basically work with the videos and everything, but a lot of folks here, like that couple, you know, they had planned on being back where she is from in Colombia by now, and they just haven't been able to, and so it's definitely an interesting time for cruisers. Panama has become kind of a limbo for a lot for people right now.
Well, I think everyone's in limbo, you know?
Yeah, that's right, though. I think in terms of my own world, but I mean, that's just everybody, right?
Last question from one of our patrons, and then we'll have to wrap things up and do our trivia. I can't believe this blew by so quickly. Crazy. Susan Snap. Oh, Snap? Susan Knapp, actually, was asking, what is the one thing you have been most thankful for during this whole pandemic? And what would you go back and change if you knew the pandemic was going to happen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you say that
What's
again?
the one thing we've been most thankful for during this whole pandemic? And what would you go back and change if you knew the pandemic was going to happen? Probably not freak out so much and try to get all of our boat projects done, because I was on the verge of a mental breakdown when we were in the boatyard, just sprinting so hard. So yeah, had I known that the pandemic were going to come, I'd slow down our boat projects, maybe explore a little bit more of this area.
I mean, you say that. If we had slowed down, we might have been in the boatyard when everything happened.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So I don't know if that was a good thing.
Yeah, that would have... Yeah.
I agree with you on just calming down, though.
Yeah.
You know, it was emotionally... And, again, I'm sure it was emotionally intense for everybody, but for us in particular, we went through a period where we were very worried about being in Panama during the whole thing. We didn't know how a developing country would handle that kind of a situation, and we were sort of entertaining the worst case scenarios in our heads, and I think that was really hard on us.
Yeah.
So that could have been handled more gracefully.
And as for one thing that we've been most thankful for during the pandemic, I personally would say it did force me to just realize that you can never predict the future. It forced us to really work on our relationship because we were both stressed out. We were stuck on our boat together. Things were changing. And so it just forced us to kick things up to the next level to be better people, I think, you know?
Yeah. That's definitely true. Yeah, it was very there you go. In case you haven't had a drink in a while. It was very almost meditative to be on Atticus in this little space without having the ability to go out much and just having to kind of zen. It was a growing experience. But I'll say, for what do we appreciate, right? That was what she was asking. What is something we appreciate? And for me personally, it's that we had the opportunity to cruise this area.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's such a unique thing, right? That we could be in an area that has this extensive, protected cruising ground that's remote enough where no one would care that we're moving around. If this whole area was populated, I'm sure they would not be cool with boats just moving around, particularly because Panama had such a strict lockdown. And so there's for every 100 places that we could have been stuck where we wouldn't have been able to move around and we wouldn't have been able to cruise and explore and get off grid, there's one place like this, you know, so that was very lucky.
Real quick, the RC channel is asking if we have an EPIRB on board, and we do. I do need to check and make sure it's updated and everything because it's been a while, but we do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill Shea, for your super chat. Thank you, Ted Jelke. Thank you, Jeremy Brown. He was asking if we've ever caught and eaten a shark while spearfishing, and we have not.
Negative.
Thank God.
And I don't think it's going to happen. It might do it the other way around. A shark may get me one of these days.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Thank you, Stephen Sheard. Thank you, Jason Birchfield. Michael Simpkins. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So trivia time.
Trivia time. Okay, this
All right.
is a fun question.
Get your Atticus trivia hats on.
Okay. So
That
whoever
is, like, the
answers
lamest
this question first correctly will will win any item from our merch store of your choosing.
So again, speed is important here. The very first person on the chat is going to be the winner.
Okay. So
All right, prepare yourselves. Get ready. Get at the keyboard.
what is the first name of the person we bought Atticus from?
Okay, what is the first name of the person that we bought Atticus from?
And while you're figuring that out, Emmanuel Eng was asking, how do you handle crew schedule on long voyages? And we started off doing 4 on, 4 off for all of our passages, and that works pretty well if the passages are long, like more than 3 days, I'd say. But we're going to try to experiment. Oop.
I believe it's right here, bud.
Who is it? Say the name.
I believe it's Jeffrey Wilkins got it.
Are
but
you sure?
You double
Might be
check.
Ashley Flash. No. Oh, man, there's a lot of...
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on.
Un momento, guys.
Extrusion!
Yeah.
Bill Berry. Yes, it was this guy, huh?
No, you just scroll past a bunch. You see that one?
Oh, yeah, Jeffrey Wilkins.
Yeah, I think it's Jeffrey Wilkins.
Jeffrey Wilkins! Congratulations!
So the answer was Scott.
Yes.
And I believe Jeffrey Wilkins is the winner.
Awesome. So, Jeffrey, if you can shoot me an email at des@projectatticus.com with what item you'd like, what color, and your address, I will be sure to get you whatever you want.
Rock on. Nice one, Jeffrey.
Yeah,
I like
job.
the speed, man.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, God.
Okay, got it.
Shooting from the hip over here. All right.
All right. Well, yeah, man, that flew by so quickly. Thank you guys for joining us live. We're going to try to do this more often now that we're in the marina and we have great internet. And if we ever skip an episode again, we'll definitely try to do a Wednesday night live stream. Yeah,
that's going to be kind of our rule. So again, if you hadn't caught this earlier, we are more or less officially going to be releasing 3 episodes a month from now on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that every now and then we're going to be skipping a week like we did this week, and we're going to really try to make sure that every time we skip, we do a live stream like this. We sometimes won't be able to, but we're going to try to every time. And real briefly, the reason behind this whole skipping a week is just because we're realizing we keep getting better at making videos, and in getting better, we're putting more time into each episode, and it's just getting to a point where we can't really sustain 4 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we drop down to 3 a month, we can keep getting better, keep spending more time on each episode, and stay on top of everything else. So that's the plan.
A couple of people were asking about Scott. He actually did pass away about a year into our refit, but we kept in touch with him and we sent him pictures of before and after shots of Atticus, and he was watching our videos as we were posting them, so we were pretty close with him and his family. And Jordan actually wrote a article for Cruising World, and we were able to send him the rough draft of that article, and he read it before he passed away, and said he really liked it and enjoyed it and was so happy that we were able to carry on with Atticus. So
yeah, it definitely meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Real quick, if you want to not miss a live stream in the future, you can always text the word Atticus, Atticus, to the number 43506 on your cell phone. And that's a service free of charge for U.S. and I think Canada residents. Also, thank you, Dave DBZire, so much for joining us.
Yeah, everybody say thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. You're the man.
Yeah, Dave just does so much for these live streams. Without him, they wouldn't be nearly as smooth or fun or awesome to the degree to which we're able to make live streams. Any of those things, it's a lot of it comes down to Dave. Yeah. So thanks, buddy.
Yep. Also, we wanted to thank. Actually, we're not using the Wii Boost because we're using. I'll just skip that.
We've got good internet.
Yeah, we've got great internet. And thanks to our newest patrons who've hopped on board. And if you want to check out being a patron, you can just type in Project Atticus in Patreon, Patreon. I'm very eloquent about this.
Shoot, you can type in Atticus Patron Project on Google
Extrusion.
and it'll probably come up. Search extrusion Atticus and see what comes up. I wonder if the Google bots have caught on to us. Yeah, it's gonna be on like Urban Dictionary. Like extrusion is the normal drinking game word for Project Atticus live streams.
Yeah. Well, anyways, thank you guys for those of you who donated via Super Chat and PayPal tonight. Thank you so much. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question or comment or get to thank you personally, but we really, really appreciate you joining us tonight. Hope you have a great
guys,
Wednesday.
Seriously, these live streams have just been so much fun for us, and we really appreciate you joining us and interacting, and just, we like getting to have a good time with you guys. So thanks for coming. Thanks for making this so much fun. And just keep saying hello. Keep watching the videos. Tell us what you think.
Thanks, Chad S, Heather T, Soak Therapy, BBLL, Snapstring, Nick 3AM, DV Zyre, Chris B, Lil Biscuit. That's a good name.
The Shaka Journals.
Nice.
Jack Belicic, Big Dog Ron,
AZ,
BBLLB,
Jennifer Schwartz,
Ted Jelk,
or Jelky,
Tim Konechny,
Marty Hanley,
Carrie Stewart,
The Deuce,
Peter Wood,
G. Pittman,
Trevor
Evans,
Little Biscuit. Little Biscuit says, "What's up?" I'm like, "What's up, Little Biscuit?" Trevor Evans,
Steven something or other. Colin Ikashaka. I just made up your last name.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Have a good